Why, hello everybody. So today we're going to talk about basically making as much use of your terrain as possible, and basically how I made this piece of terrain. Now, first thing we'll talk about is the basically to make as much use of your terrain as possible. When you make something, I feel that it should be more than just one purpose. With all the great innovations that recently, like all the magnetization, the pinning, and all that since when I first started the hobby. Now the important thing is of course like modular systems and all, where things have multiple uses, like such as this, where you can use the piece, several uses for the piece. But on top of that, I also would like to add on about how you can, for example, for me, this piece can be used in so many ways. Like it can be also used for RPGs, it can also be used for board game scoring. The RPG one is obvious, but that's more in the story and how you paint it to give their effects, which I'm going to talk about later. And first, I'm going to talk about the board game scoring. When I first made this, just a simple thought of how you're going to do some scoring can make this a board game scorer. For example, if you actually link below to the pictures, you look closely, there's actually Roman numerals of a 1 and a 10 here, so that let's say you're scoring for wounds or whatever on it. Let's say player 1 has 2 wounds left, so there you go, it's 2 wounds. And there are 2 sections, so if you remove it, example, player 1, player 2, or you can even pile it on top, depends on you. And actually you can even do more than 100 scoring with this, like in Carcassonne. Let's say it's over 100 points. Player 2 has 62 points, right? So these 2 rows is the 10s, these 2 rows are the 1s. So let's say 62, player 2 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 points. 2 points. And then player 1 has 43 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 40. 1 and then 1, 2, 3, 43 points. Now I know it's not the most convenient scoring, and I admit that openly, but like I said, the option is there for me to use it. And more importantly, for dungeon crawling games, I feel using this as a scorekeeper of either wounds or whatever it is tends to give a lot more theme. And besides, like I say, it's available to you if you want it. So just a bit more thought, you could add something like this. Even if you want it even more, you can add it like a tiles on the side to score like winds of magic or something like that for like other games. So that's the part for the scorekeeping for the board games. And then like for the RPGs thing, basically, if you notice, there are actually darker grass patches, which I'm going to talk about how I did that later. But for RPGs, the important part is, for example, especially at the entrance here, alright, just a little planning from that if someone was to walk there, and let's say he's a ranger, you ask him to roll a perception check. If he passes, you can actually do the thing where you can describe it so much more deeply than, you spot like the grass there has a bulge or something like that. Instead, you can say that your ranger notices that there's a lot more grass behind the barricade than at the front, but that whole section is the entrance. So then you can say maybe the thief comes over and he inspects it, and then he finds there's actually a trap there. Just a little bit of planning, just a little bit of more painting at the back there gives that effect and the story. So, and if you do this, trust me, whenever you make a terrain piece, next time anybody plays your RPG, they'll be like, oh, there's a different color to this. They're going to actually get so much more into the experience, and they will start noticing things about terrain that will really immerse you in the RPG. So like I say, my whole point, I keep going back to just a little bit of more work could make all the difference. And of course, the modular part where you can use the terrain several pieces in normal miniature gaming. So now I'm going to talk about how I did this piece. First things first, of course, this is from the Warhammer 6th edition box set. It came with the terrain, so I thought, why not? And then I put it all together. Now I didn't glue it. All this actually can be removed. Only some parts have been glued, like such as this and these pieces and this part here, because this one, if not, the thing kept popping up and looked a bit weird. So I actually glued that too. Other than that, everything can be taken apart for easy storing. But I don't think I would do that, because I'm quite happy with the way it is, and all these are still very tight, and if you keep plucking it out, I found that it got looser and looser. So unless I really am transporting it overseas or whatever, I'm not going to take it apart. Also that I did the wood paneling, almost the whole thing again. And the way I improved on the painting of this is, actually the card already had texture on it, and I actually improved it by basically going back into the piece itself by using watered down black wash or whatever, then going back into the holes, the so-called textures, like the rock that they put shading there. You actually make the shading deeper and the highlighting light. You highlight it more, so you don't actually paint through the whole thing. But you just enhance what is there, and I think it painted pretty well. Especially even like the grass, I redid the grass shading and everything, and of course like the wood paneling. I this one I almost repainted the whole thing, and I'm happy with the result. I think it's pretty nice. All right, so there. Next thing is of course the terrain piece itself, the base. So the way I did this was, of course, with this one just scoring. I did the scoring first. All right, with the X-Acto knife that you went through. Now the important point is not to go too deep and make lines, because when that happens, I have seen it before where if you cut the whole thing through, the thing might warp. It gives it a higher chance to warp, basically. I feel if you cut all the way through, you know. So I just did like a very light scoring where you can see the lines. And then for these pieces here, all these, like I say, make use of everything. These are actually all the sprues that all these terrain pieces came on, and I cut them up. And basically, my thought was, when the planning was to make it look like the fencing and all around the house. Like this all used to be fencing around here, was hit by the cannonballs or whatever, and whoever came back to fortify the area, or rather it was your own adventurers that did it. What they did was they just put all the bigger fencing on the ground, and then they threw all the pieces at the bottom and then filled it with dirt. Then the grass grew whatever on it. So the way I did that was, first I put all the bigger pieces, glued it down. Then I cut the rest of the screw into smaller pieces and started building a base, you know. And then after that, basically I just layered on PVA. I mean papier-mâché, which is a mix of like tissue paper or paper towels into a mixture of PVA glue and water, basically. And basically I just layered that on and let it dry. After it was dry, and that's very important, to let the papier-mâché dry first, because you want to give effect that the soil was piled on. Alright, so you need to add sand onto the papier-mâché. And I found that if you ever do it when it's wet, it will just all fall apart. And the worst thing, when you paint it, it's so weak that you actually puncture through, and then you have a lot of if people look closely, they actually see the white of the paper. So don't do that. Wait till it's all dry. Be patient. And then when everything's dry, then you do your texturing. You put your PVA, you add the sand. The important part about these areas is to leave a lot of the papier-mâché showing, so that you get effect like the soil there. And then so some parts will have some grass there and all that. And the important part when you put the papier-mâché also is that you leave some of the spruce showing. Like example, to make this look like it's actually there's like, especially for this part, like this part of the fencing that actually was, people can tell that was what the base of it was, the fencing, at least for this piece. So then after you go into the painting, like some grass is growing out there, just that's from adding just normal sanding on the base. And the painting is the important part here. For the rock basing, I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. You just need to highlight the color and shade. The important part is actually how to get the effect of like it's actually soil and the grass is growing on it. It's basically you start with spraying it all brown first. Then after that, doing all the highlighting for the brown first. That means going through it with a brown wash, then a highlight, and then one more highlight. At least I would do one more highlight. And then you start with the green. Important part is that you actually dry brush the green, and you don't layer it on, because that would just cover everything. Because you, like I said, you wanted to make it look like there's soil at the bottom. So then until you dry brush the green, and but you do not, the next part, you do not shade the green with green wash. All right, you shade it with the brown wash, a watered down brown wash, because like I said, you're not going to cover everything up, except like I said, if you wanted to do the effect of like say the grass, where the RPG, the grass is growing deeper, there's more grass there, then you add a green wash. But as you had noticed from these patches here, here, and here, you don't really see any more brown in it. So that's a very important thing that has to be planned, because if you just throw a whole flat green wash all around the grass area, you might as well not put the brown. You just wasted all your time. So most of it, I didn't do that. And then after that, then you just go through your normal thing where you shade with the brown wash, the watered down brown wash, by the way, important. You're not, again, you're going to cover the green, and again, you're wasting your time again. And then you go through a normal highlight, mix a bit of yellow with your green, and that's it. It's nice, quick, simple. A lot of uses for this, and nice centerpiece. If you ever were just for a small board game or whatever, where you need some terrain, like maybe a Mansions of Madness or whatever, can use this too. Or even for Descent, really. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed, and till next word.